How close were you with Charlie? I knew Charlie Kirk. I'm going to say this, and I think that you'll agree. Charlie made everybody feel like they were friends. So I had Charlie's number. We texted back and forth. He was on the show 4 times. I never met him in person, but he hooked us up at TPUSA events all the time. Just a really good dude. But I'm guessing you had a close personal relationship.
Yeah, very. Don was very, very good friends with him. I was friends with Charlie, good friends with Charlie. Our whole family was. I mean, listen, at the end of the day, we fought a battle and we won together. I mean, Charlie created one of the great youth movements. And, that was really on the back of kind of Make America Great Again and so many of the things that my father stood for. And, in turn, it almost, brought us together as one. We were inseparable. I mean, we were going all over the country. I can't tell you how many times I was on the stage with Charlie all over the place. I remember when Charlie came into the Trump organization, he was about 21 years old, and he told me about kind of the grand plans of what he wanted Turning Point to be. And he got there. Everything that he said he was going to do 10 years ago, he did and more. He was a remarkable individual, and I'm going to be at the funeral on Sunday, but it's a tragic loss to everyone.
Vice President Trump Organization, it's Eric Trump. New book is called Under Siege, My Family's Fight to Save Our Nation. Go and get it right now. It's on Amazon right now. When it comes to Charlie Kirk and the movement that he made, I think certainly without you, without Don, without the youth of the Trump family and the youth of this nation realizing what you guys were doing, your dad doesn't win last November. I mean, bringing in Gen Z like that is a commentary to what Charlie built and what you were, going along with as well. When I was at TPUSA in Dallas and I sat down and met all these incredible people, these young people just have their minds opened by what it is that Charlie did and what he said. I don't think he even realized how big it wasn't a movement anymore. It's now a revolution. I don't think he realized how big it was because he was always humble. If you don't mind, talk to that angle of Charlie Kirk, because the guy could have been an egotistical jerk because of what he built, and he wasn't. He was the exact opposite.
No, that's exactly right. I mean, I think Charlie was first recognized how our kids were being indoctrinated, how college kids were literally being misled, how they were being taught revisionist history in schools, kind of the tenured faculty and what they were doing to kind of youth in this country. The fact that we were losing God, we were losing faith, we were losing patriotism, we were losing our First Amendment right. We were being kind of spoon-fed nonsense that, all the money that kids spend to go to college and all these scholarships that they have to pay back, for years, and these tuitions and these student loans and everything else wasn't actually serving any of them. And they were, again, being brainwashed, and that we had to stop that, right? Because, I mean, that was kind of the fundamentals of our country. And those kids were going to be kind of the next generations of the leaders in this country, and we couldn't allow their minds to be corrupted. And he went out there and he created a great movement. And, Pags, I mean, I spoke with him at Georgetown. Georgetown is one of the most liberal schools. It was my alma mater. And we went in there. He would go to any school. It didn't matter how liberal, how conservative. He wanted to change the student bodies on campuses. He literally wanted to open people's minds. He wanted to allow free speech, and he wanted, he wanted peaceful, dialogue and argument, and he created that, and he literally turned around a generation of kids in this country.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it, Eric? He decided that he would go into the lion's den. He would have a conversation, rarely ever even raised his voice. He would platform people that hated him. He would platform people that thought that he was nothing and the lowest of the low. And then by the time they got done, maybe you don't change that one individual, but the people who were in the middle, sort of leaning a little left, leaning a little right, weren't sure about the indoctrination, they got so much out of just having conversation. And because of that, your dad was almost killed. Because of that, Charlie was killed. Because of that, we've got this unbelievable, disgusting language coming from the left. What Charlie did was go where most people wouldn't go. I know you'd go there. I mean, I try to talk to people who are on both sides as well. But most people, they were scared into shutting up. I think that he made them understand you can speak to the other side and you can have a mutual understanding. Is that what you saw as well? The guy was just so unafraid to say, I'll take you on. That's cool. Let's have that conversation.
Yeah, no question. And maybe the first time I've ever thought about this as you're asking that question. I mean, at the same time, he did what my father did, which my father was incredibly vocal about things that were, weren't necessarily always politically correct, that a lot of people shied away from. And by doing so, he gave people the very confidence to go have these arguments. In a time when people were whispering, behind the scenes, my father was out there, talking about immigration and talking about how we're being ripped off all over the world and how our country is being put last. And I mean, how awful, the corruption within, Washington, D.C., et cetera, and it emboldened a lot of people to have those same conversations. Charlie was the same way on college campuses. You had a lot of people who were conservatives, but they were whispering behind the scenes and they didn't want to be front and center, and they didn't think their voice had any meaning. They didn't, They didn't have that backbone and that gall to go out. And guess what? He gave those people courage based on the fact that he led from the front, no different than my father did kind of nationally with so many Americans. And so, Charlie was an amazing guy, and we're going to miss him tremendously.
Well, your dad never said beat them up. Your dad never said they're all a bunch of Nazis. What he said was, there's a problem at the border, let's fix it. There's a problem with the economy, let's fix it. There's a problem with our foreign relations, let's fix it. There's a problem with trade, let's fix that. There's a problem with the lack of nationalism, let's fix that. And he did it through words. The left is cornered right now, Eric, and I'm afraid for what the future looks like, but I think more somber thinking, very intellectual people will rise up and maybe shut that down, especially calling Antifa the terrorist organization it is. That's going to help out as well. But they're in a corner, and they're a bunch of cornered rats, and they're lashing out like they are. How do we make sure that the next 10 years, 20 years, 30 years for your kids, for my grandkids, how do we make sure that that's okay and it doesn't fall into this, almost a war faction in the streets? How do we make sure that we come out of this better?
Well, Joe, you mentioned Under Siege before, right? And that's exactly what the whole book is about. Exactly what you're saying. They wanted to corner us. They tried to take away our freedom of speech. They censored us. They took my father off of Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. They deplatformed all of us, right? It's why we had to create Truth Social. Yes. They raided our homes. They weaponized the FBI. They weaponized the DOJ. They impeached my father twice. They went after his Supreme Court justices. They made up the Russia hoax. They made up the dirty dossiers. They tried to destroy our family. They tried to deplatform us. They debanked us, right? I'm suing half the banks, the big banks, because they went after us no different than they did, all conservatives. They took him off the ballot in Maine. They took him off the ballot in Colorado, right? 91 felony convictions. They subpoenaed me, 112 times. I became the most subpoenaed person in American history. They didn't have the narrative. They were losing the narrative. They couldn't win the argument. So what did they do? They threw legal lawfare on my family. That's the whole point of Under Siege. They tried to destroy a man. They tried to destroy a family. They tried to destroy a movement. And they tried to do it using every form possible, hence kind of the siege. And yet, all of us, Charlie Kirk, myself, Don, you, Joe, you've been the greatest voice out there. You've battled with me for 3 elections. How many times have I been on this show over the years?
So many times, yeah.
They wanted to stop our voice. They wanted to silence us. They think that by calling Charlie Kirk a fascist, or me a fascist, or you a fascist, or Donald Trump a fascist, it's okay for them to dress in black, go climb up to the roof of a college campus, take a rifle, and shoot a guy who's engaging in open and free dialogue and having a great time with students who are cheering him on, the entire time. They have lost the narrative, but this is a siege that they want. They don't want me to be on that stage. You know where they want me to be? They want me to be in a basement hiding. They don't want you to be on that stage. They don't want my father to be on that stage. That's why they tried to kill Donald Trump. That's why they killed Charlie Kirk.
Yeah.
Right? That's the siege. And what they're not realizing is every single time the unintended consequence of all of this, whether it be the censorship or the gag orders or the sham trials or the raids on Mar-a-Lago or the sham impeachments or, having, 7 judges remove my father from a ballot of a state where people want to vote for their candidate of choice, it backfires.